My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to walk through the entire UFC Vegas 51 fight card. We're going to talk about who I think wins, how I think these fights goes, but we're also going to talk about their DraftKings values and who I think should or should not be in your lineup. Weigh-ins are over. The only person to miss weight was Drakkar Klose, and then he got an extra hour, and he made the weight within the hour. So he missed it on his first attempt, made it on his second attempt. Everybody else made weight. Nothing too notable. I don't think Vicente Luque or Belal Muhammad looked especially great at weigh-ins. Neither one of them looked that good, honestly. But other than that, pretty straightforward weigh-ins. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way to the top. But before I dig into Kevin Croom, go to WeWantPicks.com/DraftKings. We have our own DraftKings League. It is free to join, free to participate in. Just compete against us, the community. Have a good time. Check it out. WeWantPicks.com/DraftKings. And opening up the card, we have Kevin Croom taking on Alatang. Alatang, he's a technical striker. He can work in grappling when he needs to. And you can see here he had 4 takedowns against Benoit, 3 against Dana Bagarai. And he's a pretty well-rounded guy. They have him as a sizable favorite at $8,800. And he is taking on Kevin Croom. And Kevin Croom, 2 losses and a no contest here in his UFC run. The reality is he is much better than what this record says. The fight against Caceres was close. The fight against Kelleher was close. And when I say close, I don't necessarily mean a judge was going to give it to him, but close in that it wasn't a murder. He had moments of success. He's a very unorthodox striker. He's a very sneaky grappler. He just doesn't have the transitions in between. There's no real takedowns or takedown defense in there. But he's good, he's talented, and he can make something happen. I do not think he wins this fight, but I do think that there's something to Kevin Croom, and even though he hasn't had a ton of success in the UFC, he's not a bum, right? He's better than what his UFC record will tell you. So I don't like him as almost a 2-1 favorite on the betting card. Alatang, but $8,800, I don't think so, because I don't think he's going to get a stoppage. But this is a weird card, and there's not a lot of people that I'm positive will get stoppages. And if he does fight like how he fought Dana or Benoit, 80 points because he got a bunch of takedowns, some control time, he could certainly do the same against Kevin Croom. So, frankly, if he sticks to his wrestling, he might be worth the $8,800, but I would not expect a stoppage out of him. And speaking of no stoppage, we have Sam Hughes taking on Estella Nunes. Sam Hughes is looking for her first UFC win. She's 0-3 in the UFC, but look at her run. Torres, Lukbumi, Pinheiro. This is a rough go, right? This is not an easy lineup of women for her to be fighting in her UFC debut and then the next 2 fights after that. But she is a busy striker. She can be hittable, which is the problem. She's got a negative striking differential, but she does have good forward pressure, and that could be a problem for some people. And she's taken on Estella Nunes. Estella Nunes is a very good kickboxer. She's got a lot of kickboxing experience outside the UFC. She made her UFC debut against Carnelose. That didn't go her way, but Carnelose used her grappling to make something happen, and we have striker versus striker here. So this fight's going to stay on their feet. I think Sam Hughes is better than people give her credit for, but I think Estella Nunes is literally next level. She's a fantastic kickboxer before ever even considering MMA. So I like Estella Nunes to win this fight. I think she gets it done. I think she can defend whatever half takedown attempts Sam Hughes may throw out there. So Estella Nunes, this is another fight. $8,900 is a lot of money to spend when I am 99% sure there will not be a stoppage, but I'm almost positive that she'll win. So Alatang, Estella Nunes, they're both expensive. I don't see either one of them getting a stoppage, but I'm almost positive they're both going to win. So, it's a weird DraftKings slate this week for a lot of people. Then we've got Trey Ogden taking on Jordan Levitt. Trey Ogden making his UFC debut, so no stats here, but he is taking on Jordan Levitt. Trey Ogden, he's an athletic grappler. He's got solid takedowns, decent power in his hands. And he's definitely a grappler. You can see, you'll see like that he's gotten some knockouts and things like that and TKOs, but he's definitely a grappler, but he can drop people with his hands, and he has very real power there as well. And it's an interesting fight because Jordan Levitt is a nasty grappler, but he's got no wrestling whatsoever. He's like a throwback to the old days of the UFC where you'll lay on your back on the ground like an upside down cat trying to tie people up and get submissions. And he's very, very talented, but he doesn't offer much on his feet. He can't offer anything in the wrestling department. So he's just sort of submission or bust. And I hate saying that, but that's the reality of it. He's basically submission or bust. I like Trey Ogden to win. DraftKings does as well. I think Trey Ogden can outstrike him. I think Trey Ogden can out-grapple him. Not raw jiu-jitsu out-grapple, but I think he can take Jordan down, stay inside, elbows in, and not create problems for himself. And, you know, do you want to spend the $8,300 on Trey Ogden? Yeah, I probably will. That's not a lot of money. That's almost even money in DraftKings. And Jordan Levitt will be live for a submission, as he always is. But I just don't see him getting it done. Not without the wrestling that you need to get it to the ground. And then we've got Martin Buday, another official UFC debut. And he is taking on Chris Huggy Bear or Chris Beast Boy, depending on what point in his life that you knew him, Barnett. And Beast Boy's coming off this win over Jean Vellante. And you'll see this. Wow. Second round KO or TKO, 97 points. The reality is, though, he was a step behind that entire fight. He did not look good in that fight until the insane spinning back kick. So Chris Barnett is ridiculously athletic, especially when you look at him. He's shorter. He's a little thick. You don't expect him to be as athletic as he is, but he is incredibly athletic and can make things happen. So Chris Barnett, the problem is I don't see him winning this fight because he's fighting Martin Buday. Martin Buday is a big, heavy-handed striker, solid footwork, very real power, very good on the ground. He's got his own takedowns. Martin Buday is a very well-rounded, very solid prospect in the heavyweight division. And I am surprised the UFC did this matchup because after Chris Barnett's last knockout, I thought they'd be like, you know what? Let's build him up a little bit, right? Let's make him fun. Let's do what they did with Tai Tuivasa. They gave Tai Tuivasa like too good of opponents too soon. He got those losses under his belt. Then he found his confidence, became a fan favorite, and now he's putting it together. But, you know, I don't want them to use Chris as a stepping stone because I like Chris very much, but I don't see Chris Barnett winning this fight. I love Martin Buday. I actually think Martin Buday might get a finish here. $9,000. He is probably worth it to be in your lineup. Then we got Hoffa Garcia taking on Jesse Runson. Hoffa Garcia is a really good grappler, but he has developed legit power in his hands, and he has some solid striking. His cardio sucks. Trash cardio. But everything else is very good. His grappling is good. His striking is good. But he gets winded pretty quick, and he's always live for a knockout because of that insane power. And he's fighting Jesse Runson. Jesse Runson, let's hop in here. Jesse Runson has not had luck in the UFC, and he's had 2 stints in the UFC, except this was a no decision over Nicholas Dalby. He submitted Dalby in the first round. Submitted him. And then they overturned that decision because he tested positive for some banned substance. He says it must have been a tainted supplement, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, he did finally find success in the UFC, and then it was taken away. But this is basically grappler versus grappler because Jesse Runson is a grappler. He does have some solid takedown defense. He does have some solid striking as well. But, you know, and I say he's a grappler. I mean, honestly, technically, he probably would call himself a striker. But he does have some grappling, and he's got solid offensive BJJ, and he has success in scrambles. So Jesse Runson's a very good fighter. He's very good everywhere, but I love Hoffa Garcia. I think Hoffa Garcia gets this done. And if we take a look, yes, he lost to Hack Paras, but so did everybody at that time before Nasrat was sort of exposed a little bit. And then he lost to Grutzmacher. This was ridiculous. He was like murdering Chris Grutzmacher. Chris Grutzmacher just somehow clawed himself back from an inch away from death. And Hoffa Garcia was just stupid tired and gave that fight away. But he looked good in this fight up until the cardio issue. This last fight against Natan Levy, Natan was like this highly touted, incredible grappler that everybody was obsessed with. And Hoffa got that done. He was a decent underdog there too. So I like Hoffa Garcia. I will spend the $8,200. And I do have a bet on him as well. Then we got Drakkar Klose. And my contacts are very dry, which is why I don't have Tourette's. I just have ridiculously dry eyes. Drakkar Klose is coming back after a bit of a layoff here, almost 2 years. And he's coming back to fight Brandon Jenkins. Drakkar Klose, he's the only fighter that missed weight. He made it his second attempt on the scale, but he did miss weight. What's concerning me about Drakkar Klose, he was supposed to fight Jeremy Stephens, I don't know, a year ago, 6-7 months, something like that. Jeremy Stephens shoved him at the weigh-ins. Drakkar Klose, got all sorts of messed up. The fight was canceled, and he has been talking about all this week in interviews, I'm still not healed. I'm still not 100%. I may never be 100%. I thought I was going to have to retire. So that Jeremy Stephens shove, messed him up. And the more vocal he is about how much it messed him up, the more concerned I am for this fight, because even though Drakkar Klose is a very talented fighter, he's a very good wrestler who then developed striking. He was a state champion wrestler. He uses that wrestling offense pretty well. 2 takedowns, 1 takedown, 2 takedown. And like I said, he put together some solid boxing with power and speed. But he's fighting Brandon Jenkins, who's coming off the UFC debut over Zhu Rong. But okay, fine. Fine, that happens. And that was a short notice UFC debut loss. But he's a kill or be killed kind of guy. So when you beat him, you stop him. When he beats you, he stops you. His nickname is the human highlight reel, and that's how he fights. Everything's at 100%. He is a striker. He's busy with both kicks and punches. He pressures forward, and he's constantly changing stances and levels, and he's really big for that weight class, and he does use his size well. Listen, I'm probably not going to touch this fight because Drakkar Klose should win. But this price point, for a guy that hasn't fought in 2 years, that's very vocal about thinking he had to retire from injuries and that he's still not 100%, I'm not spending $9,400 on that. Brandon Jenkins, he could take Drakkar Klose's head off. That's how he fights. Or he can get knocked out because that's how he fights. So I'm not going to touch it, and I don't advise that you guys spend the $9,400. The reality is he's probably live for a stoppage because Drakkar is the better fighter for sure. But again, he's been struggling with issues. He hasn't fought in 2 full years, and he's fighting a very dangerous guy. The problem is, Brandon Jenkins is going to get a stoppage or lose by stoppage. So Drakkar Klose is either going to be worth every penny of $9,400 or be the biggest bust on the card. And that's just, definitely multi-entry. I would explore both of those guys, but I don't know. My cash game with my friends, I'm probably not going to do that. Then we've got a rematch. We got Panunu Kanzad taking on Lena Landsberg. Both of these women are very good strikers. Lena Landsberg, a Muay Thai world champion. Panunu Kanzad fights just a pure boxer. Not a ton of kicks, just has a great jab, pressures, good footwork, one punch at never throws one punch at a time, always using combinations. Coming off this loss to Raquel Pennington back in September. But before that, she had a nice little run, a couple of solid wins over decent fighters, Betchka Hera, Sajara Eubanks, Alexis Davis. These were solid wins. And she puts up okay points. And what's shocking about that is there's never takedowns. It's just legit good points from insane volume. And if she does have control time, it's against the cage. $9,100 is a lot of money to spend. But, frankly, there's very few people on this card at that price point that I really trust. And she is one of them. Although Lena Landsberg is tough. I mean, like I said, a Muay Thai world champion. She's coming off a 1.5 layoff. 2-year layoff. And her last fight was she was just completely outgrappled by Sarah McMahon. But she's beating the unranked women and losing to the good ones. I mean, Kunitskaya at the time was much better than she is. Aspen Ladd is very good despite her 2 most recent fights. So I think Lena Landsberg is a lot better than this $7,100 price point, but she is a Muay Thai world champion striker. But I think Panunu Kanzad's ridiculous hand speed and constant jab will get it done. I mentioned this is a rematch. They fought 10 years ago. Pani won that fight, but that was 10 years ago. So much has happened since then. So the fact that it's a rematch, in my opinion, doesn't really matter. Then we've got Devin Clark taking on William Knight. These are 2 light heavyweights that are moving up to fight at heavyweight. So size doesn't really matter. Meaning, if William Knight was coming up to fight a heavyweight who's been a heavyweight, it would matter, right? How big is William Knight? He's been a light heavyweight. He missed weight, blah, blah, blah. But Devin Clark is also a light heavyweight. So both of these guys are light heavyweights that are not cutting weight for this fight, essentially. But Devin Clark He's good. He's a solid grappler. He's got well-rounded striking. He doesn't really have the best chin, but he does have solid footwork, heavy hands, and he does work in takedowns. 3 against Townsend, 2 against Ryan Spann. He took down Alonzo Menafield, Kutalaba, and he beat Alonzo Menafield. Okay? And Alonzo Menafield fights very similar to William Knight. I mean, they actually fought each other, and William got the better of that exchange. But Devin Clark's a pretty decent fighter, and DraftKings has him as a good-sized favorite. William Knight, he lost to Massim Grishin. He took that fight on short notice and then missed weight by an absurd amount. That's why he's at heavyweight now. But he looked bad in that fight. He did not look good. His other loss was to Chan Sung Jung, who just bodied him. He just took him down over and over and over. He big brothered him. He bullied him. He just did whatever he wanted to do to him. And that just wasn't a good look for William Knight. But since then, he just absolutely leveled Fabio Charant. He out-decisioned Alonzo Menafield. He had a knockdown, a takedown. He won the grappling exchanges, and he was winning the striking exchanges as well. The problem with William Knight is he can be bullied. He can be bullied. And Devin Clark might bully him. But Devin Clark has had some chin issues. William Knight, I imagine, even at heavyweight, hits like a freaking truck. So I think William Knight wins this fight. I think William Knight, he has had very good cardio. When I broke this fight down before, I basically said my biggest curiosity is what is William Knight going to look like on the scales? Because if he balloons up to 265 of rock solid muscle, I think his cardio is going to suffer. But he weighed in at like 250 something. He looked honestly the same, just not sucked out. So he actually should fight the same. Hopefully his cardio is there. And if he still has solid cardio and that ridiculous power in his hands, I think he can knock out Devin Clark. So I think William Knight, you got to do some maneuvering, right? You can't afford all favorites in DraftKings. That's not how this works. I think he's a pretty solid underdog at $7,600. Somebody that possesses the power that he has, the cardio that he has. So I do like William Knight in that fight, and I'll have him in my lineup. Then we have Munir Luque. His original opponent dropped, so he's fighting Angelus Noda now, who's a short notice. Munir Luque is a good striker. He's got a good enough chin that let him just hang out in the pocket. He can bang away. He's got lots of power, solid cardio, and he works well with combinations. But he's not just a striker. He can work in takedowns as well. He took down Abdul Razak Al Hassan 4 times in that fight for a very solid 101 DraftKings points. And then obviously Alves broke him. But that was a year ago, and I do like to see when people get knocked out like that, a full year or more to just put it back together and, unscramble their brains, and it looks like he did that. Angelus, no data here because he is making his official UFC debut. He had a failed contender series fight about 6 months ago against Jack Maddalena. And then he just beat John Doomsday Howard about a week and a half ago on the regional scene. He's a very good striker. He has takedowns, but he loses grappling scrambles, as weird as that is. But he's athletic. He's got good cardio, an amazing jab. It is just constantly in people's faces. Angelus is another guy. The short notice worries me because, yes, I understand he just fought like 10 days ago. But short notice is short notice. Okay? That means he fought. He won his fight, and then he was a little beat up. He's probably still limping a little bit. Like, he was in a 3-round fist fight. He's not 100% yet. I don't care if it's 10 days later. So anyway, he fought, won a 3-round decision. Then obviously he's going to have some pizza, some beers, some Pringles, whatever else. And then they're like, hey, do you want to fight in the UFC? And he's immediately cutting weight. Immediately, short notice, cutting weight, UFC debut against somebody as tough as Munir Luque. So I like Munir to win. I do like Munir to win. The short notice is worrisome, but Angelus, busy, dangerous, talented guy that could absolutely make something happen. So you want to spend $7,400? He may be worth it. Then we've got Pat Sabatini taking on TJ Laramie. Pat Sabatini is a nasty grappler. He's got technical striking. We did see him absolutely get dropped against Jamal Emmers, and then he pulled off a submission. Half unconscious, was able to snatch that up and make it happen. But that was an incredible comeback. It shows just how tough he is and how he's never out of a fight. But he did get dropped in that fight. But he does have technical striking. He is a grappler. He's got good takedowns, incredible jiu-jitsu. He is absolutely a grappler. And we saw that in the Tucker Lutz fight. He had almost 12 minutes of control time, 5 takedowns for 105 points. And if he fights that exact fight, then he smokes TJ Laramie. Smokes TJ Laramie. That's how Derek Minner almost beat him, right? Or, I mean, he submitted him, but similar path. Take him down, work him from there. And the odds makers have this, have TJ as such a big underdog because he was submitted by Derek Minner. But TJ is good. He's good. He's a well-rounded guy. He's got dangerous kickboxing. He does have jiu-jitsu. He's got legitimate power in his hands, and he could put your lights out with one punch. He's got dangerous knees inside the pocket, head kicks when he's not in the pocket. And TJ Laramie is very good and a very dangerous fighter. If Pat Sabatini's hanging out with him on his feet, he could have some trouble. So if Pat Sabatini takes him down and fights that fight, I love him. He will be in my lineup. He's one of my more confident picks. Then we've got my next most confident pick. We have Mayra Bueno Silva, and she's taking on Wu Yanan or Yanan Wu. And Mayra Bueno Silva, she has fought pretty much the best of the best. Not quite there, right? She hasn't vied for a title yet, but Manon Ferro, Montella De La Rossi, like Marloes. And she's lost those fights. She's lost the fights to the higher ranked women in the division, or even Manon. I don't know if she's ranked yet, but she will be. But she's beaten everybody else. And it's only 2 other people, but she's beaten them. So Mayra Bueno Silva, she's talented. She's a good striker. She's got solid power, solid kicks. She likes charging forward. She throws from there. And she's also a good grappler. If she's losing striking exchanges, she can take it to the ground and work from there. So Mayra Bueno Silva is very good, very well-rounded. Just hasn't had any gifts as far as matchups are concerned. And she's fighting Wu Yanan. Wu Yanan is, she's looking for a solid win here. She's lost to mediocre competition. Gina Mazzani, Mizuki, Jocelyn Edwards, and they weren't great losses. She is a very good Muay Thai striker. She's got grappling if she needs it. She does move well. She's got good volume. She doesn't really have any power at all, but she does have footwork and cardio, so she can kind of work from there. But I just love Mayra Bueno Silva here. I think there are levels to this, and Mayra Bueno Silva is not at the highest level, but she's right under there. She's like top 20 in the world, where Wu Yanan is top 40, top 50, something to that effect. So I think there are levels here. It is priced accordingly, so I don't think there's a stoppage. And if we look at Mayra Bueno, there's not enough takedowns to justify these high price points, right? Can she submit? Maybe. If she could submit Wu Yanan, then yeah, she's worth $9,300. So I do like Mayra Bueno Silva to win. I'm very confident in the fact that she'll win. So you just decide, is she worth the money or not? Because there's a bunch of fighters on here that I'm positive they're going to win. I just don't know if they'll be worth the money in that win. And once you have that many fighters, you got to make some decisions, right? And that takes us to Miguel Baeza, and he's taking on Andre Filo. Miguel Baeza, he's a very good technical striker with solid BJJ. He is coming off 2 losses in a row, but he is making improvements, and he does have solid fight IQ. He does a really good job using kicks to take away his opponent's legs, and he wears down their cardio. He's really tough. And, Jacob and I got into a big heated argument last time he fought. Jacob was talking about he's got a solid chin and he won't go down. And then Chaos Williams just leveled him. But you see, this was in the 3rd round. The first 2 rounds, he looked good. Miguel Baeza is good. He was landing fantastic strikes. He was winning exchanges. He looked great. And then he got cracked. And I just don't know what that means. This was just in November. It hasn't even been 6 months. It's been 4 months, 5 months. And I just don't know what that means. Meaning, is that it forever? How many times have we seen a fighter that had a pretty good chin lose the chin and then just never recovered the right way? Always had chin issues from then on out. I don't know if that's the case here with Miguel Baeza, but he is absolutely talented enough to smoke Andre Filo. And Andre Filo made his UFC debut against Michel Pereira. He only scored 20 points in that fight. He was a step behind the entire fight, but he's a very good technical striker. He's got solid BJJ. And, he's similar to Miguel Baeza in that regard. But Andre Filo's got a really nice double jab. He's got heavy leg kicks, and he does have solid takedowns. He didn't get to use any against Miguel Baeza, but he does have them there. He will kick your legs, he'll kick your body, he'll kick your head, and he'll mix up the leg kicks both inside and outside. Miguel Baeza doubled his significant strikes, so 45 for Andre. I think Miguel was over 100, so he was just a step behind. And he's not overly talented. He is very hittable, but my God, is he durable. He is durable, and that is the one thing that concerns me here, because Miguel Baeza can do what he was doing to Chaos Williams. He can light him up. He can win the exchanges, do what he's supposed to do, and then still get knocked out in the third round. That's the only thing that worries me here. I think Miguel Baeza is the much better fighter. I think Andre Filo is so durable that it could be an issue. So I don't know if I'm going to have Baeza in my lineup, but man, does he look good even in those losses. Andre Filo's super, super durable, but you don't throw a guy in your lineup hoping for a last-minute knockout. That's just not something you do. So if I have the choice between Filo or William Knight, I actually think William Knight can win the fight. I'm not just praying for him to get lucky with a punch. Andre Filo, if he's in your lineup, you're praying for him to get lucky with a punch, and they're basically at the same price point. Then we have a very interesting co-main event. No stats on either one of these gentlemen because they're both coming off Contender Series wins. We got Caio Barral, and he's taking on Gadzi Omar Gadjev. Caio Barral, he's a slick grappler. He's got submissions. He's got well-timed takedowns. He has a long stance and very loose feet. Like, he's got that like Wonder Boy karate stance. And then he just shoots and explodes into double leg takedowns. When he hits the ground, it's very obvious he's a grappler. Like the way he crosses his feet to tie up your feet and the way he moves. He is straight up a jiu-jitsu guy that learned how to strike. If you watch a Contender Series fight, you're going to be like, oh, wow, he's a phenomenal striker. Because, you know, he had an awesome head kick combo that led to a stoppage. But the reality is his striking needs work. His striking absolutely needs work. But he is a talented guy, mostly a grappler. And he's taking on fighting to Gadzi. And his fight against Gadzi will be an interesting one because Gadzi's a really well-rounded guy, but predominantly a wrestler. On his feet, he's an okay boxer. He's got very real power. He'll plot forward, string together combinations before looking for a takedown. He'll snatch up singles or doubles. He has no issues literally picking them up in the air. And what I love about his wrestling is once he gets the takedown, he will immediately start transitioning. He'll slam you down, transition to side control, transition them out, and work from there. DraftKings has them as almost even money. I love Gadzi. He will be in my lineup. I think he wins the striking exchanges, takes down Kyle whenever he wants to, and then avoids the submissions. And frankly, takedowns score 5 points. So point-wise, he should score really well because I see him getting some takedowns and some control time. And then we've got the main event. We've got Vicente Luque, who's stupid dangerous, right? He's got power in his hands. He's got slick submissions. He is very, very dangerous. But my whole pick is based off of, not my whole pick, but a lot of my pick is based off his fight with Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa took him down. Michael Chiesa had his back, and Michael Chiesa would have submitted Vicente Luque if he took his time. Instead, he got too anxious, jumped over the top, fell, and then because Vicente Luque is as dangerous as he is and as talented as he is, he snatched up his own submission, and he ended up submitting Michael Chiesa, but it was not looking good, and I get it. It was in the first round, and it's not like, you know, I'm basing it off of one exchange, but he was taken down pretty easily, was out grappled until he saw his opportunity and took it. So Vicente Luque is an opportunist. I don't think he's amazing anywhere, but he's got real power. He'll find holes in the striking. He's got solid jiu-jitsu, but he can absolutely be outworked, outgrappled. And I mean, his body of UFC work is very incredible. 1 loss, 4 wins. A loss to Leon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 wins. The loss to Thompson, 1, 2, 3, 4 wins. I mean, he's done impressive stuff in the UFC, and he probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves. But he's fighting Belal Muhammad. And listen, I think Vicente Luque is definitely the more talented fighter. He's got better hands than Belal. He probably has better submissions than Belal. But Belal Muhammad is relentless when he wants to wrestle. He will wrestle your face off, not stop, head down, make it happen. They've already fought once before. Vicente Luque knocked him out. And if anything, all that does is make me even more confident that Belal Muhammad is going to wrestle nonstop. Look what he did to Wonderboy. He took Wonderboy down 7 times. He had 13 minutes of control time in a 15-minute fight. He scored 132 points in a 15-minute fight. I think it is more of the same. It's a 5-round fight, which makes me nervous because that's 2 extra rounds of Vicente Luque's power. But I think Belal Muhammad just takes him down over and over and over and over again. And even, let's say Belal Muhammad, let's say this Wonderboy fight, let's say this was against Vicente Luque, right? Which is a 5-round fight. Let's subtract 30 points from here because that's what he got for winning a decision. So that means going into the 4th round, he was at 102 points. And then let's say Vicente Luque knocks his head off his body. I don't care. I got 102 points for $7,700. So I like Belal Muhammad. He will be in my DraftKings lineup. I don't want him to strike. I don't even want him to overly grapple. Just wrestle and hang out and rack up that control time. So, guys, that's the breakdown. Let me know in the comments below who you think wins. I've already seen. It's so funny. You guys are so split on Luque and Muhammad. Some people are just and no middle ground, right? Everybody's like, Belal's a bum. Vicente's a bum. Nobody's like where I am right now. Like, Vicente's super dangerous, but styles make fights, and if Belal's going to shoot 1 million takedowns, he can win this. Guys, middle of the road. There's always a middle, and I'm in the middle, but I like Belal, especially at underdog money, and I love the wrestling style. Let me know your picks in the comments below, and check out weonpicks.com/DraftKings. Join our free DraftKings League.